So a very commonly requested video is actually to do a full interior overview of the Range Rover. So I thought I would do this video a little bit differently. It's not going to have all of this cinematic B-roll that my normal videos have, which you can check out every single video I've done with the Land Rover up in the eye above. This one's going to be more raw and just more of going through the little pieces of the interior of the Range Rover. So I think with that, we might as well just go ahead and get started. So here's just the exterior of the Range Rover. It's the 2011 body style. However, they made this body style for the model years of 2010 to 2012 before replacing it with the L405, which is what we know as the new Range Rover. So this is the key that Land Rover give you. It's probably one of the worst built keys ever. So you walk up to the vehicle, and most of the time when it's locked, the mirrors are actually folded in, and as soon as you hit unlock, the mirrors will fold out automatically. So I should note that this one is actually equipped with the luxury package, which just gives you a few extra options, and as you can see, like I said, it is pretty dirty, but let's go ahead and hop in. So once you step inside the Range Rover, the first thing you notice is actually the digital display for your speedometer and gauge cluster, and once you turn the car on, it will actually go ahead and change the display around. It's going to bong at me a few times because I've not actually turned the engine on. This gives you the option of coming through here, showing your menus. Notice with the Land Rover, showing your warnings is the first option that you can have. So then if we come into vehicle setup, we have the options for the speed warning, which just give us the option to turn on the speed warning. That's just going to give you a bong when you hit a certain speed. Most of the time though, the bong scares me because it's the same bong it has when it throws a fault. So then moving down here, we have the reverse dip mirrors. When you put the car into reverse gear, it will go ahead and dip the mirrors down. A lot of cars have this, but this one, it's really easy to turn it on and off. Drive away locking, that's pretty self-explanatory. As you drive away, hit a certain speed, the doors will automatically lock. Easy entry and exit, that is pretty much just when you get in the car, the seats will move to the position set with the key, and the steering wheel will also move and the mirrors will adjust. Then we have two-stage unlocking, which just means that instead of hitting the key one time to unlock all the doors, you would hit the key twice to unlock all of the doors. I don't know why you would have that set up, but I have mine turned off. And then you have headlight delay, which you can take all the way up to 240 seconds. Then coming back to the main menu, we can scroll down to trip computer, where we can change it from trip A to trip B, trip auto, and units. Then back on the main menu, the last option we have is service menu. The service menu will just let you display your oil level, which a lot of people don't know. This actually will go ahead and measure your engine oil level, but the car cannot be on for that to happen. You have to have the car only in this mode in order for the service menu to come up. You can also display the VIN, which you can actually find this VIN on VINwiki, which is pretty cool. So that's pretty much service menu, and that is all of the menus in the display. Also, you'll notice that when you have the car turned off, it will show you the date as well as the mileage, and if you have the parking brake on, it will show the parking brake light up in the top corner. Moving on over here, we have the left side driver vent, which is actually missing a chrome piece that the rest of them have. That piece actually resides right there. In a recent video, I mentioned that this piece actually fell out, which is more of a testament to Land Rover build quality. The piece fell out. I've not bothered to replace it because really it's not that big of a deal. And then down here we have the automatic headlight controls, as well as the front fog lights, the rear fog lights, and the dim control. Moving over behind the steering wheel, we have the turn signal, as well as the button that allows you to change the information shown on the display. And then we also have a lever that allows you to control the different positions of the steering wheel. Over here we have the buttons that change the song, as well as turn up the volume on the radio, as well as change the modes, so you can change from satellite radio to FM radio to iPod connectivity. Then moving over to the other side, we have the controls that allow you to change the information shown up here when you're going through the menus, as I showed earlier, as well as the answer and voice activation and heated steering wheel. Now, the heated steering wheel is actually one of my favorite parts of the car, and that is something that actually comes with the luxury package. And then over here we have our standard wiper controls. Moving over to the right side of the steering wheel, we have the start button as well as the infotainment system, which we will go into here in a minute. I actually have a full video explaining some of the different quirks that you may not know about the infotainment system, such as being able to turn your backup camera on no matter what gear you're in or what speed you're going. So you can find that down in the description description below. And over here we just have the home menu. I'll go ahead and turn the car on so we can get a better view of this. It just says Range Rover as it comes across the top and then pulls up the last screen it was on. So in this case, we'll just go to the main menu where we can see navigation, phone, audio, video, 4x4 info, settings, and turn the screen off. We also have an option for valet mode and for the navigation to be able to tell us where to go. However, because it's not accepted, that's not going to work.
Navigation caution has not been accepted.
There we go. Then coming down here, we have the home menu navigation, the volume control, which is a very cheap knob that actually has broken at this point, so most of the time I just use the controls on the steering wheel. We also have our different audio settings as well as a button that pulls up some information when we're listening to music. On top of that, over here on this side we have a button that directly takes us to the phone, as well as audio, video, a button to change the modes and skip the songs or change the radio station. So like I said, I do have a video where I go through and explain some of the different things that you can do with the infotainment system in the Range Rover, but real quick we'll just go to navigation, we'll accept the caution, and then as you can see it just pulls up navigation. Going back to the main menu, we can go to phone. It's just going to pull up a basic dial pad as well as your phone book and call register. Going back to main menu, we have audio, video. I don't know why you would always go back to the home menu to pull this stuff up, which is I suppose why they have these shortcut buttons on the side. But pretty much from here, you can choose FM radio, AM radio, satellite radio, CD player, and portable audio for USB, iPod connectivity, and auxiliary. Obviously, when you're playing music in the background, you can change these different settings over to the side, but to avoid copyright, we're not going to go through that right now. Going back to the main menu, we have 4x4 info. This is actually a place where you can check a lot of the different components about your Range Rover. You can see that you're in high range gearbox rather than low range, which we'll get to in a minute. All of the air suspension settings, as you can see, this front wheel is moving around quite a bit as if it's adjusting. You can also change it over here to show a compass if you really wanted to. And then down below we have some information about the special programs which we can look into further down below. Going back to the main menu, however, we have settings, which just allows you to change some of the different settings about the vehicle. There's nothing too special in here. Going back to the home menu, last thing is screen off as well as valet mode. Coming down here we have a lot of the climate control systems. We have the max AC button, the AC button, auto air, recirculation, changing the temperatures. We have those knobs as well as an automatic button that will just let you set the temperature and it will do the rest for you. You can also control the fan speed by using this knob, but for the most part I just leave it in automatic and let the car do the work itself. You can also change where the air comes out, which vents it comes out of. So for the top one, it would actually be the one that goes out on the windshield right there. For the fascia one, it's just going to be these two, and for the one for the passenger and driver feet, I think that's pretty obvious. Moving on, probably one of my favorite features about the Range Rover are the heated and cooled front seats. You have the option of turning them over to heated, which they're not going to do right now because the engine isn't running, but you can also change whether you want it to be on just your back or just the bottom of the seat. You can also have your clock down there, which is typically blocked by the gear selector, so I suppose it's just heritage. Coming down here we have the gear selector for the 6-speed ZF transmission, as well as all of your terrain response controls. Down here we have grass, gravel, and dirt, or grass, gravel, and snow, mud and ruts, sand, and rock crawl. Rock crawl, however, does require that you be in low range gearbox, which you can do by putting your transmission in neutral and selecting low range. Here we have hill descent control, and contrary to apparently popular belief, that is not what you use when parking on a hill. That would be this.
And this is if you're parking downwards.
Also down here we have the air suspension controls that allow you to adjust the air suspension, as well as an ashtray with a cigarette lighter that is easily removable. Another thing we actually have in there is the sun visor clip, which came off I think over a year ago at this point. This little piece right here snapped off, so the sun visor doesn't stay in place. But speaking of the sun visor, we actually have two sun visors. We have the main one as well as a secondary one. Over here we have the cup holders. Nothing too special about those. These little pieces will actually pull out so that you can fit larger cups in America, or so you can clean it. Moving on, over here we have the top area where we can place our CDs for some reason, as well as some extra storage, and funny enough, we have a duck. Coming over here we have the bottom glove box, which is pretty much where you can store most of your stuff. For the most part, nothing too large is going to fit in here. As you can see, most of it is taken up with a CD player. Moving into the rear of the L322, we can see actually how cramped the rear legroom is. For some reason, in such a large SUV, they opted not to give it as much legroom as you might expect, but nevertheless, nobody's ever back here, so it doesn't really matter for me. Over here, we have the rear heated seats as well as the climate control for the rear. Most of that is directed through these vents right here. To turn the heated seats on in the rear, you actually just push the button. You have 2 options rather than the 3 up in the front, so your rear passengers do have an option for heated seats. And moving down here, we have 2 electrical outputs as well as your aux input. I don't know why Land Rover decided to put the auxiliary input in the back, but it actually makes your passengers more comfortable if you want them to be able to control the auxiliary input. Each of the passengers also has a little bit of storage with these fold-out pockets right here, as well as some storage down below. And then to make things a little more comfortable, we also have reading lamps as well as a button that will turn the lights on in the back. And then in higher spec models, there is usually a screen right here for the DVD player, but this one was not spec'd with that option, so it's just the back of the leather headrest. Moving over to the side, the middle seat can actually be folded down for cup holders in the rear, so you have an option of having a third person or 2 cups. And with the ones that are spec'd with the DVD players in the rear, you actually have the remote control that would fit right here, but since this one is not spec'd with that, that just has some extra storage for the rear passengers. So that is a basic tour of the interior of the L322 Range Rover. If you guys enjoyed, leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.